You wake up early, maybe even before your alarm goes off. You check your phone, and for a second, you feel that small sense of control. Like today might be different. You go to work. You do what you're supposed to do. You try to be responsible. You skip small things. You tell yourself you're being disciplined. And at the end of the month, you finally manage to save a little bit. Maybe it's $200, maybe $500 if you really pushed it. And for a moment, it feels like progress. But then something happens. Your car starts making a weird noise. A bill shows up that you didn't expect. Someone in your family needs help. And just like that, the money disappears. Look, this isn't a one-time thing. This keeps happening, over and over again. You try to move forward and life keeps pulling you back. And eventually, you start asking yourself a dangerous question. What's the point of even trying? My name is Demas, and I spend way too much time thinking about money. If you're someone who feels stuck financially, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Now look, this video is not going to tell you to just save more money. You've heard that before. And honestly, if it were that simple, you wouldn't still be stuck, right? Here's the thing. Most financial advice sounds good on paper, but it doesn't match real life. It assumes you have control over everything, your income, your expenses, your emergencies, but that's not how life actually works. So instead of repeating the same advice, we're going to break this down differently. We're going to look at what's actually happening behind the scenes, why saving your first $10,000 feels so hard, and why most people quit long before they ever get there. And more importantly, what you can do about it. So let's start with the advice you've probably heard 100 times. Spend less than you earn. Cut unnecessary expenses. Skip the daily coffee. Track every dollar. And if you really want to get ahead, start investing as early as possible. Now you might be thinking, that all sounds pretty reasonable. And yeah, technically it is. None of this advice is wrong. But here's the problem. It's incomplete. Here's what most people don't realize. This advice only works if your life is already stable. It assumes your income is predictable. It assumes your expenses don't suddenly spike. It assumes you're not dealing with debt, family pressure, or unexpected emergencies every few months. Look, telling someone to just save more when their financial life is unstable is like telling someone to run faster while they're carrying extra weight. It ignores the real issue. And because of that, people start blaming themselves. They think they lack discipline, that they're just bad with money. But the truth is, the strategy they're following was never designed for their reality in the first place. So let's talk about reality for a second. Not theory, real life. According to data from the Federal Reserve, a large portion of people wouldn't be able to cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money or selling something. Think about that. Just $400 is enough to completely disrupt someone's financial situation. Now let's break this down with real numbers. Let's say you take home $3,000 a month. Sounds decent, right? But then rent takes $200. Food is another $400. Transportation, $300. Utilities, phone, subscriptions, easily $200 more. You're already at $2,100. Now you've got $900 left, but life isn't perfect. You spend a bit here, a bit there, things you didn't plan for. Maybe $300 on random essentials, $200 on social or family needs. Now you're down to $400. Best case. So even if you save that consistently every month, it'll take you over 2 years to hit $10,000. And that's assuming nothing goes wrong. But something always goes wrong. Here's where things start to break down. You're not failing because you can't save. You're failing because you can't keep what you save. Let me explain. You finally managed to put aside your first $1,000. It feels good, like you're finally getting somewhere. You start thinking, okay, maybe I can actually do this. And then life hits. Your car needs repairs, not optional. You have to fix it just to get to work. That's $600 gone instantly. Now you're back to $400. So you start again. You cut back. You stay disciplined, you rebuild. $800, $200, maybe even $2,500 this time. And then something else happens. A medical expense, a family situation, an urgent trip you didn't plan for. And just like that, You're back to zero. Again. This is the reset cycle, and it's exhausting. Because it's not just about losing money. It's about losing momentum. Every time you restart, it feels heavier, slower, more frustrating. And eventually you stop seeing progress and start seeing a pattern that makes you feel stuck, no matter how hard you try. So what's really going on here? Because this isn't just about numbers. It's about how your brain reacts to those numbers. Here's the thing. You're not bad with money. Your brain is just wired in a way that makes this process harder. First, there's something called loss aversion. Losing money feels way more painful than gaining money feels good. So when you save $2,000 and suddenly lose $2,500 to an emergency, it doesn't feel like a small setback. It feels like you've failed, even if you're technically still ahead. Then there's instant gratification. Saving money is slow, invisible, and honestly, kind of boring. But spending? That gives you an immediate reward. Your brain naturally leans toward what feels good right now, not what benefits you later. And then comes risk. When progress feels too slow, people try to speed it up. They jump into risky investments, chase trends, or gamble on shortcuts. And this is where it gets dangerous. Because instead of moving forward, they end up right back where they started. So if saving alone isn't the answer, what actually is? This is where it gets really interesting. Because the people who eventually break past this stage aren't just better savers, they're playing a completely different game. Here's what most people don't realize. The real goal isn't just to save money. It's to increase the gap between what you earn and what you spend. Look, there's a limit to how much you can cut. You can only skip so many coffees. You can only reduce your expenses so far before it starts affecting your quality of life. But income? That has no real ceiling. Let's compare two people. Person A saves $400 a month. That's disciplined, that's consistent, but it still takes them over 2 years to reach $10,000. Person B increases their income by $1,000 a month. Now they can save $200 monthly without feeling restricted. They hit $10,000 in under a year. Same effort, different focus. And that's the shift. You don't have a saving problem. You have a gap problem. So what do you actually do with all of this? Because understanding the problem is one thing, but changing your situation is another. Let's keep this simple. First, stop aiming straight for $10,000. That goal is too far, and it makes every setback feel bigger than it actually is. Instead, focus on building a small buffer. $1,000, then $2,000, then $3,000. This gives you breathing room. It reduces the chances of getting completely reset when life happens. Second, you need to increase your income. Look, if your numbers don't work, they don't work. No amount of budgeting can fix a gap that's too small. That might mean asking for a raise, switching jobs, starting a side hustle, or learning a skill that pays more. Even an extra $300, $500 a month can change your timeline dramatically. Third, create systems. Separate your savings from your spending. Automate transfers so you don't have to rely on motivation. Make it harder to touch your money, because in the end, consistency beats willpower every time. Now here's the part most people never get to experience. That moment when saving money finally stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling stable. Because once you reach that first 10,000, something shifts. Emergencies don't wipe you out anymore. They just set you back a little. You're no longer living in constant reaction mode. You have options. You have time. You have space to actually think about your next move instead of just surviving the current one. This is where it gets really interesting. Because now, for the first time, you can actually start building wealth. Not just saving, not just recovering, but growing. But here's the truth. Most people quit right before they get here. They quit during the slow phase, the frustrating phase, the phase where it feels like nothing is working. Look, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to move fast. You just need to stay in the game long enough to stop starting over. Because once you build momentum, everything changes.